I can't hear anything. Can't hear anything.
So again, I'm not going to go over these line by line, but I would recommend in the interim between today's meeting and next month's meeting that you take a look and review it. If there's any questions, let me know. And then I would recommend at next month's meeting that go up for a vote to adopt, yes or no. Any questions?
No, Josh, you'll get that on our agenda then for.
And I would recommend too, if you have a moment, to go on to the website, National Alliance website. It's NAPC. If you just Google NAPC Historic Preservation, it'll come right up. It's a really, really great. If you have questions about how should I do this as a commissioner, how I should do that as a commissioner, there's some good resources there as well.
It's posted in this handout.
The website is not, but it's NAPC. If you just Google that, NAPC, it'll come up.
Is it like .edu?
I think it's .org. But if you just do NAPC Historic Preservation, it'll come up first or second.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I should have put that on there. Any questions about that? Any concerns while I'm bringing it up or anything like that? Or it's not because of anything that you've done or not done. I just haven't had feedback from the commission, other commissions, and the state CLG administrator that these are good things to have as a historic preservation commission.
And just for the board's info, it is napcommissions.org.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
My
Let's see, wait a
apologies.
minute. NAP commissions.
Yes.
Josh, could you say that one more time?
On that website as well. Questions about that, we could move on. So I also wanted to include just a refresher for Robert's Rule of Order that we use here in the commission. And we don't get into a lot of back and forth and, where we have to know the ins and outs of Robert's rules, but I think it's just important to refresh our memory. And, you can rip this out and bring it with you to the meetings moving forward if you want. Just some good things, some main things. I think we do a really good job of, the main motions and, things like that. Sometimes I think we could just be more clear about what we're doing with amendments and when they're friendly, when they're being pulled off, that type of thing. I think it's just good to, I'm by no means an expert, don't get me wrong, but I just think sometimes if I'm listening, like I was last time, it wasn't clear exactly what amendments were being used or not used, or when they're pulled off the table or they're on the table or whatnot. So I would just recommend, again, just refreshing your memory, or if you're not sure what to do, to just have this with you when the meeting's going on. It's just very useful moving forward, especially if things are going on for a long time. Sometimes it's good to use the call to question. That it's not used a lot, but some people think it's rude. But it's good to maybe just bring things to a close and to move on with some of our more chatty applicants. So again, I just wanted to pass this out, not because of anything, that I'm not being critical of the way things are, but just sometimes it helps to have something in front of you to remember how to move the meeting along. And Paul, you do a great job. You do a great job of it. Any questions, concerns? Why I'm bringing this up? No. And the other thing, and we'll get into that next, is hopefully the microphone's up, but sometimes it is very difficult to hear people when they're talking. And crosstalk sometimes gets in the way of what is happening. So just to keep that in mind as well. All right. So the gist of what I wanted to talk about, and I can't remember if we've gone over these before or if someone else from Landmarks has gone over these before, but the next page are the 9 nuggets for commission members. And what these are sort of bullet points of expected behavior and expectations for conduct at commission meetings. So again, this is not because I felt sorely disappointed walking away or anything like that. I do think that any commission that has had members for a long time, there's a level of comfort, which is good, but also a level of comfort that sometimes perhaps you forget how things should go or how they're being run. So I am going to go through these, and I hope we can have some discussion about them. So number one, be a Zen master. I did not make these up, by the way. So be a Zen master, show up on time, which everyone's really good about. Participate, ask relevant questions, and don't belabor the point just to get on the record. And again, I think there's a really good, I don't feel like people are just speaking up to have their voice heard, which is really good. And relevant questions, this is not here, but a lot of commissions, people will go off tangent and start talking about things that have nothing to do with the question at hand. This happens everywhere, so don't feel bad. It happens at my other commissions I work with, where all of a sudden we're talking about someone's uncle going to the hospital, how's he doing, things like that, which is great for before or after the meeting, but doesn't have any place at the commission. So, and again, you're here to vote, so keep that in mind that we want you to show up, we want you to be present and ask questions, but we also need you to vote. So abstaining because it's too difficult or you're not sure is not really the best way to go about things. This leads into the second thing, being prepared. So I do anywhere from, depending on how many applications we have, from a half an hour of work to 3 or 4 hours of work to get ready for this commission. So it's important to me, and I know to Josh as well, that the commission members read the packets when we send them out, that you have come prepared with questions and discussion points that you want to have with the commission members. So I don't have a vote on the commission. I'm not here to tell you how to vote or how not to vote, but it is important to myself and Josh that you come prepared and ready to discuss the applicants when they're in front of you. So that goes in also with the guidelines, the new guidelines that we have in place for the last 6 months or so. And remind me, are those on the website? The page, the preservation? Okay. We'll double check. So those should be on the commission landing page for the city. And if you're not sure about something that's coming up before, make sure you go to the guidelines to double check, just make sure that your opinion is matching with the guidelines. If so, why not? Those types of things. Because that's what I use when I'm making my decisions with site visits and calling the applicants as well. So also, don't be afraid to go visit the property. You shouldn't be talking to the property owner, but if you want to drive by, check it out. I would highly recommend that if you have time. I know everyone's busy. This isn't the only thing you're doing all day. And again, if you go by and you see the applicant, you're not supposed to talk with them. That would not be considered kosher. So just keep that in mind. I know it's difficult. Sometimes we know the applicants very well and they want to chat with you. If you've seen at the library or something, just say, we can't talk about this. We'll have to talk about it at the meeting, or email Josh or email Blake and you can bring it up. So trust me, I know it's difficult because sometimes you're friends with people and it's easy to just say, oh, sure, let's talk about your roof. And before you know it, you've maybe agreed to something that you shouldn't agree to or not allowed to agree to. So just keep in mind also that to serve and protect, that we're acknowledging and engaging with the public. I know that we have always booked, and we have a full house in here with the public showing up to speak their mind. But just keep in mind that we're here for the public, especially when the petitioner's here, to stay active, eye contact. Don't be on your phone checking, the news or sports or something. It's just a level of respect that if they've taken the time to show up, we should take the time to ask them questions and engage with them. Any questions so far?
No, I believe
Is
that
that boring you?
checking the sites, I always try to make a point to always visit the sites on every.
Good. Oh, good.
So I think that's
Yeah.
Do that, we should definitely.
And I think Crown Point, I mean, it's small enough that you can do that pretty easily, driving around. It's not gonna take 45 minutes just to get to the site. And that's good. And it also helps me, since I don't live locally and I have a huge area to go through, that if you see something like Jim today, you said you saw something that didn't look quite right, I can go by and you can look at it. I can look at it, double check. So it's really helpful for me, and I know for Josh as well. The next one is don't get conflicted. So I think we've touched on this before. If there's a conflict of interest with the property owner, you should definitely make sure that that is very clear moving going into it, and recuse yourself from any votes that may be taken on it. So when in doubt, you should always disclose. Just it never hurts. And then we can make a determination with our attorney about what needs to happen. So we haven't had too many issues with that, but it does come up, I know. So just please keep that in mind. And also, again, discussion with the applicant before the meeting, that creates a conflict of interest because you're already representing the commission unofficially, but officially. So if you ran into Jim Smith and he wants to talk to you, and you already have inside information about what he's going to talk about, that's creating a bit of a conflict. So just keep that in mind. I know, again, it's difficult, but it's a good thing to keep in mind.
Question
Yes.
on that one. Numerous times somebody will stop and ask about what do you recommend, or what should we do, or how do we do this? And just general information. I mean, you're saying we shouldn't even talk like that. I mean, we're just talking general stuff about restoration or materials or something. I'm not saying they have to or it's approved, but I don't want to sit there and say, I can't talk about it.
Well, I think if it's a general question from a general public, that's one thing. But if it's an applicant who has specific, say, I want to do this to my house, I'm going to put an application in, to the commission. And correct me if I'm wrong. That's different. So if it's just, Paul or Jim Smith's like, hey, I have an old house. I have, what kind of shingles do you recommend? That's different. And you can say, this is just, I'm not sure, or I'm, architectural shingles, but if you're going to do anything to your house, you need to come before the commission. I can't answer I'm not answering specifically for the commission. Some caveat thrown in there is always good so that they know they're not supposed to, if they're in the district, obviously. If they're not in the historic district, that's one that's completely different. But if they're an applicant, then yeah, you should say, well, you need to put an application in, again, talk specifically about your issue, or something along those lines. So I'm not saying you mean to people,
but it wouldn't be inappropriate for us to mention that the guidelines are available.
yeah, you should definitely mention the guidelines are publicly available. If you have specific questions, contact Josh or me about that. We can help. So most people are like, okay, that's fine. That's no big deal. But yeah, definitely tell them the guidelines are available so that they'll go to those. Those are not secrets. Speaking of secrets, so all conversations should be for the public record. So I guess now we have better mics in here. So shouldn't be any whispered conversations, no crosstalk. And obviously, Paul, you're in charge of making sure people aren't talking crosstalk and things like that, which again, great job, no big issues, but it does happen inevitably with any commission. So just make sure to keep those in mind and be prepared to repeat yourself if we have to backtrack, especially if someone's taking the minutes by hand. It gets very confusing about who's talking and what's going on. So the other thing, the next thing is focus only on the facts relevant to the decision at hand. So this is something I've noticed this commission and other commissions, sometimes it's easy to get off track. Someone will come in talking about wanting to put a new window in to their house, and we end up talking about their front porch. Or they come in and talk about their gutters, and we end up talking about the roof. So it's just very important to keep on task, keep on topic. And, just remind them like, well, your application is about your wood windows. It's not about your roof. So if you want to put an application about your roof, you can do that, but that's not why we're here. So again, I'm not saying we need to be jerks about it, but we don't want to waste their time. We don't want to waste our time. And we definitely don't want to get into a situation where we're agreeing to something in a motion that was not on the application. The original COA application, which can happen. So that's just something important. And also, if it's not relevant to the district guidelines, so if someone comes in and it's like, oh, I want to re-side my house with wood siding, fine. And then they start talking about, oh, but on the inside of my house, I want to put in a new Frigidaire refrigerator and all this stuff. That we don't, let's say we don't care, but it's not relevant to the commission. So as much as we'd love to chat about it, that's something that we can talk with them offline. There's nothing to do with the commission guidelines. There's no conflict there. But those are things that, again, we don't want to waste our time or their time with things that just aren't relevant to what the commission is here to do. I think we're lucky that we don't have 30 items on every agenda. So sometimes it's okay, you can get away with it. But at the same time, if we don't have to be here for 2 hours, then we shouldn't. So the next thing is a big point, and I think we should talk about this, is don't design by committee. I know it's very tempting. I know we're all here to help people. They're our neighbors, your friends sometimes, but we're not here to design their project for them. So if someone comes in and they don't have the necessary documents, they don't have the design, they don't have a rendering, we're not here to do it for them. We're not here to draw a picture for them, to imagine something for them. And I know it's hard to do because we want to help people, but in the end, it's only going to come back to bite the commission and the behind, because we're agreeing to things that we haven't seen drawn out. We don't know exactly how it's going to end up. So tweaks are fine here and there, that's fine. But if it starts ballooning out into something completely different, or they're changing things on the fly, the applicant, and we start, oh, well, maybe we should do this, or have you thought about this? That's fine, but we're not going to put that in a motion to approve it. We have to say, these are great, you need to come back next month with a new application, or if it's minor enough, to put in an application for administrative approval that Josh and I can approve. This came to mind with the last month's meeting with the new Parisi's signage and all of that, where it morphed from wanting to paint the brick to cement board being approved, backing being approved. In my opinion, that should have been a separate application. But what happened was, I think, we wanted to have it approved, and it was a great design, and it looked great. So it kind of went off the rails a little bit, where then instead of talking about the painted brick, we were talking about approving a completely different system for the backing for the signage. So that's just something that designing by committee can kind of back you into a corner, because then that was approved. And then, so I was not stuck, but I was, talking with the owner now about not painting, but now what kind of system would be the best to put up on the building. Is that clear? Like, I know it's a little bit, but it's important for the, yes.
No, I was just trying to remember what we did on the signage. I thought we voted it down.
No,
You voted down the painting.
yeah, right.
You
Okay.
approved the signage, and you also approved that he could put up a temporary or a backing, a green color. Okay, backing to a temporary. And so it just turned out to be a lot more involved than I think he intended, with the system that that we agreed. Is like a fake brick looking and all of that, and it was just a lot more involved than I think you intended. So that's where designing by committee can kind of, now we've approved this. And we kind of, and we couldn't backtrack and say, not really. just kidding, because then that puts you in legal, jeopardy. So that's all I'm saying is, if they don't have it on the original COA, you can chat about it, but you have to say, you need to come back when you have something that we can look at, you have something in our hands that we can actually see and vote on. Because what you're voting on is just an idea and a promise, kind of. It's, not always great. Other commissions I've worked with, it can get really ugly because, oh, you told me I could remove the whole facade of this building. And then you realize, oh, we did say that, and we didn't specify what kind of brick should be put up, or all these little details that need to be in a COA, as detailed as possible. So, again, I'm not here to scold you. I just want to make sure that that's clear. And I'll try to do a better job of just kind of piping in, reminding the commission that that's kind of not your job. So as much, I like doing it too, so don't get me wrong. Any more questions about that or concerns?
No, not really, but I in fact made a motion to approve it as submitted, which would have involved painting from the windowsills down. I got a second. It was voted on and rejected.
Right.
But I did it to move the darn discussion forward. And we resulted in something that we voted in successfully for.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
all I was trying to do is move it
No,
forward.
it's-
But that's okay. That's something that we do with proper
Right.
rules of order,
Yeah.
is sometimes make a motion just to keep going.
Yeah, and that's true. I guess to that point is making the motion to approve the backing, the temporary backing. That wasn't in the original, so that's the issue. Is that's where it kind of went off into no man's land of you were voting for something that you had no idea what you was going to select as his preferred system to put the fake brick up. So. And it'll look nice when it's done, but that's some additional discussions with the owner, so, which is fine. The next thing, we're not here to vote on if it's pretty or not. So I know, trust me, I know it's very tempting. But if it meets the guidelines, if it's not, irreversible, that type of thing, even if it's really ugly, can't vote on if it's ugly or not. So I know sometimes you gotta hold your tongue, but hey, if someone wants to, I don't think there's a paint ordinance in the guidelines, so we don't have a palette that's been approved for historic districts, things like that. So if it meets all, we can make a suggestion, but if they don't, if like, I want to paint it bright yellow with green trim, there's not a whole lot, unfortunately. So things like that, just again, this is not just here, it's a lot of places. So just keep that in mind, because if someone makes a motion to vote no on, or no for a thing that because it's ugly, I can assure you that can be appealed pretty easily if they wanted to do that. So just keep that in mind. And the last thing is the ex parte communications. So again, you should not discuss or debate an application with an applicant outside of the meeting. So to your point, Jim, so they can just be misconstrued as, since you're on the commission, they can think, well, you told me, I saw you down at the restaurant, you said black shingles were great, blah, 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 blah. So that's where just to be careful saying, I can't give you an answer. You have to look at the guidelines, or, just very bland, non-committal, that kind of thing. So because you'll be shocked with people, oh, you told me, I saw you at the bar, the other night, and you said it was fine, that kind of thing. So it's good. It's always, again, document. And if you did see someone and you're not sure if you messed up, just write Josh and I an email saying, hey, I saw Jim, this is what happened. I don't think I did anything wrong. That's overkill, I know, but it's good to have documentation. So those are the 9 nuggets, and again, keep those for your reference. Put them by your bed or take them up to your bathroom mirror if you want. So, and again, it's pretty basic stuff. You guys do a great job. I'm not again here to scold you, but I just wanted to refresh, just to make sure that we're continuing to do good work and making very defensible decisions moving forward. So finally, the Secretary of the Interior Standards. So everyone should know these by heart. I'm sure you do. These are what the guidelines are based on. These are the rehabilitation guidelines. So the guidelines for preservation, the guidelines for restoration, things like that. So these, the rehab guidelines are pretty basic and not too strict. So the preservation ones and restoration ones are very strict. These are the most useful for historic districts in urban or cities because they allow some flexibility. And these are what I base my decisions on when I'm making a recommendation. I would urge you to look at these if you haven't in a while to refresh your memory. And especially when you're making a motion, to use these as a guideline. You know, to say like, you know, I'm going to approve these because this house is a physical record of its time and place, and this, you know, applicant is preserving that, those types of things. Again, it creates a good record, a defensible action, so that we can go back in the minutes and have that say, okay, this is how they approved it. When I'm making my staff reports, I always put in what standard I'm using as documentation, like a number 9 or number 10 or number 1, just so I know that when I go back and look, if there's ever a question, oh, this is why, you know, what I was using as the guidelines. So I know in the past, I don't think we've ever said, you know, I'm making a motion based on Secretary of the Interior Standards number 3, 5, and 6. Some commissions do that. I'm not going to say that we should start doing that, but just to keep these in mind when you're moving forward, if there's a question or concern, especially if the applicant has a question about, well, what do you mean I can't sandblast my brick building? Because we get that a lot. Like, I want to, you know, power wash it with the highest pressure possible, or things like that. You can say, well, you know, it's not me that's saying this. The Secretary of Interior Standards do not permit sandblasting or, you know, XYZ for different treatments for buildings. So it's a good way to take it off the personal, to make it very objective and, you know, for your decisions again. So any questions, or is this the first time you've ever seen these? Or
It is. I think it's very helpful to know, so you can review it.
yeah,
It kind of reiterates what we know already,
right.
but still to remind us what.
Agreed. So, and again, these again are the rehab ones we don't use. There's a whole other series that we do not use, which if we use the other ones, we would get nothing approved ever. So that's why we use the rehabilitation, because you're going to use the structure not always for the purpose that it was used for before. You have businesses, you have bed and breakfast, you have all types of things with historic buildings. So.
I have a question.
Yep.
When he starts talking about deteriorated historic features, I'm going to use an example of windows.
Sure.
You know, somebody's got a house, they don't have thermal pane, it's a single pane glass. They have the aluminum storm triple track windows,
Yeah.
which would be inappropriate for the age of the house or the period. So they say come back and they want to replace the windows with, you know, Pella something windows that are thermal pane and will match the design, will match the color and everything else, so they all look appropriate.
Right.
But yet it's a new material, and yet it's, you know, thinking about energy costs and things like that. How do you address some of those things, or people are trying to be energy efficient
Right.
and have issues with the old stuff?
That comes up a lot. I mean, windows are a prime example. So for me, the first thing I would, if I was talking to this person, I would say, can I come look at your windows? Because a lot of the time, wood windows can be repaired. They can be made a lot more thermally sound than they currently are. Not always, but a lot of the time with repair, and they can be tightened up, and you can get a internal storm on them, magnetic, that you can just put on, which makes them a lot more efficient for a fraction of the cost of new windows. The guidelines that we have with Crown Point give numerous approvable windows that they can put into their structure that are energy efficient, maybe that cost cheap, not gonna be cheap because we didn't put cheap ones in there, but also appropriate for historic structures. So usually they're wood clad aluminum or something like that, where they look historic, but they're contemporary materials. The other thing is also that they need to document that the windows are actually deteriorated beyond repair. If you just, I would recommend if they come in, I just want to replace that window, but they have no documentation of the windows, no pictures, well, we've tried to repair them at these dates, nothing like that, then I would be hesitant to approve that, quite frankly, because they haven't done their due diligence. They just want to rip everything out and throw it away. And that's not really what the point of the historic district is. Because again, a lot of the time wood windows can be repaired really well, quite frankly. And if you think about it, most of them, they've been there for 80, 90, 100 years. They're still working. They just need to be fixed up a little. And if you put in a new cheap vinyl window, it's going to last you maybe 20 years, depending where you get it from. So that's a cost that most people don't think about, especially if they're flipping or whatever to a property is, they think they're getting money, but they're really just not. They're throwing away a lot of money. So that's how I would handle it. Is documentation from the applicant is the primary thing, not just scouts on here type of thing. That's not for windows. That's for everything. So. And it asks a lot. It asks a little more of the applicant for sure, but again, that's the point of having a historic district. Is to sure they're doing their due diligence, and that we're doing ours as well. And the other thing is just to remember that we're not here to keep things like a museum. Like we know properties change over time, and so if the windows are deteriorated so much, I don't want to be that. I would hope this commission would not be that type of commission. I would be like, absolutely not. Never are you going to replace a wooden window. But sometimes they are. They're just too far gone. There's nothing you can do about it. So that's good to keep in mind. We're not here to keep people in the past. We want them to enjoy their historic properties in the present and in the future as well. So with these standards, I'll make a point to try to bring these, or if you want to bring this packet to the meetings, just so you can have them. And I'll see if Josh can put a link on the preservation, the commission landing page as well to the standards, just so if you want to refresh or have an applicant and say, go there, look at the guidelines, look at the standards that are used for the decisions. Maybe it'll help. I don't know. Probably 99% of the people won't look at them, but it never hurts to say, well, did you look at the guidelines? Have you looked at the standards? No. Okay, well, that kind of gives you an insight to their level of commitment as well. So
If it helps, the planning department's gotten into the habit of when we issue the application to come to HPRES, we include a copy of the guidelines with the
great.
application.
That's great. Yeah, that's good. That's always helpful because as long as we're working from the same playbook, it's hard for an applicant to argue if they haven't done their homework and you have. That's good, But if they've done their homework and you haven't, you're going to get taken to school. It's not going to look good. So, but it's not a pleasant feeling for sure. So, any other concerns, questions? No. Well, anyway, so that's education. Good. Again, if there's ever a question, please reach out to me or Josh about it, big or small, about preservation, or I'm not sure what to do, or whatever. So, or if you have things that you want to do as the commission has a lot of, we can do house tours, we can do educational sessions like that, road trips. If you ever want to meet other commissions, we can try to arrange that, things like that. So just keep that in mind. Again, I know you're all busy, but it's important to stay on top of things, and with the new stuff is always coming out. So just keep that in mind, especially I will say with my new office is a mid-century building. And so I'm discovering a lot of issues that I haven't thought about before with preservation, because it's a mid-century building. A lot of the buildings that we've talked about are from the early 19th, early 20th century. and that don't really apply to buildings built in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. So those are going to be coming up a lot. So it's just good to keep conversations going and assess things appropriately. All right, I'll stop talking.
Okay, I think we need to make a road trip to your new office.
Yeah, we could do that.
Where is it at?
Well,
It's on the
Valpo.
campus of BU. Yeah,
Okay.
so we could do a commission meeting there. I don't,
yeah, I think that'd be good.
yeah, so that's it. And we'll
So this is 101, we're ready for 102 coming up.
we'll see. I'll go over the notes and see if we're ready. But yeah, no, this is just again. Well, I'll maybe every 6 or so months we'll just do something different just to keep us engaged.
Well, thank you, Mike,
Yeah.
for that presentation.
Yeah, it was.
Very good.
Yeah, there's a lot that I knew that refreshed what I did know.
Good.
Explain it.
I won't pretend I know that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to discuss?
No, well, the only other thing is work started on the house Indiana landmark spot down on 302 East Clark. Feel free to walk by whenever. We started the brickwork. And then we'll be slowly moving forward with the exterior, everything that was approved by the commission. If you see something you don't think was approved, please let me know as an applicant. And we can address that, but we're excited to finally get started. So I think it'll be great.
I do have a question on that. On the front porch,
Yes.
I know that I know what it looked like when it was still intact.
Yeah.
Are any drawings or pictures that you're going back to help?
We're not quite there yet. If you have any,
I don't, unfortunately, but I just remember what it looked like.
yeah, if anyone knows of anyone who has a picture of, 20 years ago, that would be great. So we do the best we can based on archival images, but there's not always a lot to go on. So I know we're going to take it back pretty simple, no more screens or anything. So we'll make it so you can fit 2 people safely on there. So that would be nice. So
I know you can turn the clock back pretty darn far right now with Google Earth. Can you do that with Street View?
I'll look. I'll see. It goes back pretty far. I'm not sure if it'll go back far enough for
The porch was changed about 30 some years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
You
not.
said 20, that
Yes.
was possibly 30.
I believe the furthest back street view goes in Crown Point is 2009.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll keep looking for stuff. You never know what shows up in old photos and things like that. So yeah, but we'll do the best we can to match what was there. Definitely. So there's a lot of integrity to the outside, which is great for an old house like that. Yeah.
Thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next, I want to bring up John Hydrator. John, to come up, state your name and address for the record, and you want to make a short presentation.
Tell you that to begin with, but the reason I'm here is, I guess I can answer questions. The foundation, church foundation, have been in communication with the National Trust relative to the status of the buildings and the challenges that have been gone through for a number of months. And they're interested in doing an article for the Preservation magazine, which is called Preservation. And so that's happened, and they'll be publishing in the August issue, which is considered the summer issue. And what I've done is I brought you a copy of the article that relates to the building, and actually there are a number of sites that they address in this particular issue relative to the condition, what state are they in. It's like the 10 most endangered list that you see from time to time in Indiana Landmarks and other preservation magazines. So that's what I brought you. Just a copy of the actual article and the associate sites that are in the article.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. I often drive by here.
Let's see.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought, actually.
The status of the project is that we have a potential buyer inside outdoor landscaping, and they been to the first hearing at city council relative to the potential use of the church to be for office space, so that required a change of zone. The school would remain as apartments, and that zone essentially has passed. There has to be a second hearing, which will be this Monday in August, when the council will vote on whether to approve the zones officially. And then Creekside intends to proceed relative to getting quotes and then taking the various subcontractors through relative to the potential of final activity, final acquisition of it. They really are not the owner up until now, so that will happen after the hearing on August, first Monday of August, and they will proceed from that to evaluate the actual determination of the purchase.
Okay, John, anything else you want to add?
Pardon?
Anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so. That's where we are. Can't think of anything else. We've had the great support relative to Indiana landmarks. And actually, I don't think the National Trust would even know about us if it weren't for Blake. So we got good publicity on that, and we'll be known national-wide in that regard. Again, Reed's Preservation Magazine for the summer issue.
Okay, thank you, John, for all your work on that. Also for Blake, he was involved in it quite a bit too. So thank you. This is a public meeting, so if anybody out there in the audience would like to make a comment, please just state your name and address for the record. And the floor is open. Going once. Twice. Third time. Everybody. The public portion of the meeting, and put it back to the commission. Anybody got any?
I do.
Okay, Josh, go ahead.
Just wanted to touch base, May 29th, we had the Shared Ethics Advisory Commission training at Avalon Manor in Maryville. I received a message last week. Crown Point had the most by far at the last training when it comes to attendees showing up. So Burns Harbor and Maryville tied second with 10 members. We had 17. So while I know ethics is not a competition, we won. So that's good. So I just really want to take a moment and say thank you for everyone who was able to make it. I know I pushed it probably harder than necessary, but I really appreciate the turnout we got. So thank you.
It was, I was surprised to see that many from Crown Point. It was nice.
I was so proud. I was so excited.
You did a good job of getting everybody there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Josh?
That's it for me.
Ben, you have anything?
No, sir. I see the.
Any commission member? If not, the motion to adjourn would be in order. Motion by Jolene, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jim.